I really do this just to myself, but what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and I am an idiot. I shouldn't have recorded the video that came up last week without then seeing the video that came out around the same day as when I uploaded it, but that's completely on me. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you haven't seen the video I posted last week, which means I haven't screwed up yet. If you have, you know very well how badly I screwed up, and in which case, you are free to say so in the comments down below. Um, but I originally wanted to get that video out to discuss everything that had come out at the time, and I felt like, well, I didn't realize, I completely forgot that there were two more episodes coming out that day, and I also completely forgot that, well, also, like, even if I knew they were coming out, I probably wouldn't have recorded a video talking about them anyway, because I wanted to have some time to just synthesize it, digest it, being able to get my thoughts around what happened in the Ruby Beyond episode. So here we are, and this is exactly what I'm going to be doing here. Should have held off on doing that video until next week, but I was also like, I've neglected Ruby long enough. I think I need to say something for it. And I got a lot to say for these two episodes, because oh, how about we talk about the one with somewhat first? Because that one, I don't know. I didn't really know how I wanted to feel about it. It was nice getting to see all the people in the Ever After, and it was nice to see like how things were progressing since what happened at the end of Volume 9. That was all great to see. I enjoyed seeing that very, very much. But I mean, like a lot of things in the Ever After, a lot of stuff was just kind of like, okay, sure. Like I just didn't really understand exactly what I was seeing, but at the same time, it's like that's what makes it the Ever After. It's just a little bit of a zany place like that. So, that happened. Um, and then what else? Somewhat himself, like I found it interesting to see them. Somewhat themselves. I thought it was interesting to see what they were up to since the ending. It was interesting to see them just like trying to search for their purpose. It's interesting to see the blacksmith has like kind of a godlike role, which I guess we kind of got the sense of from the end of last volume, but at this or from the end of volume 9, I mean. But at the same time, like it's still nice to kind of see that's how they play their role in terms of like how things are done. They kind of replace the gods, which in a sense, which makes me wonder, or they're like the gods' god, if that makes, I don't know. The blacksmith is another kind of entity in the show that kind of confuses me as to where their placement is supposed to be, like in how the world generally works. But they're there. I kind of accept them, and it's just like, sure. That ending though, I'm curious as to what that means. A lot of people have said a lot of different things, and I understand most of like I when I saw that originally, I thought it had to be Neo, but then rewatching the episode, I remembered, oh wait, no, that's a portal. So then it has to be coming from somewhere else, and it's like I was talking about it with Chris not that long ago, and he said, "Oh, that's got to be Team Ruby," and I'm like, it could be, but also why? Like, I can't imagine Team Ruby coming back to just be like, hey, we did it, we won, like just to do that. Like with the way the Ever After was set up, it feels like it's one of those places that just like the characters showed up, the characters did everything they needed to do for that story, and then they're never going back there ever again. Like it kind of the final episode kind of had that sense of finality to it. So I can't imagine that Ruby is going to go back. I can't see it personally. If that is what ends up happening, then I'll hold that. I guess I was wrong on that, but that's the only one that like doesn't really make the most sense to me as to how that would happen. It's the only so the only other options that leaves it has to be someone else who like has access to the relic of creation, but then somewhat recognize them as well, or seemed to, which limits it to a few different people. But it's also like it could also be the gods if Little somehow remembers them or something like that. That could be a sign that Team Ruby does end up winning in the end. But I don't really know. I really don't know what it is that I saw at the end there. But I don't really know how to make sense of what I saw for that ending there. But, I'm sure that I'm sure that eventually, if and when we do eventually get a volume 10, then that'll be interesting to discuss. But that's really all I have to say for that one. I mean, it's interesting to see the Red King, or is it the Red King? Is that what he's called? Hang on, what's his name again? It's Ruby. It's the Red Prince. Sorry, I forgot that he's a prince in this. It was. I don't know. I guess like it's a nice like about face for the character of him to see that he's not as like obsessed with winning now, and now his purpose is for others to be able to win. That's an interesting about face for the character. I'm wondering what that letter was for them. If that's supposed to be like a reference to Alice in Wonderland, which I'm highly under the impression that a lot of that is based around. I'm wondering then what that actually means for. I don't know. To be honest, I don't really know. Uh, but yeah, those are like the main characters that stood out from that episode. They're those are the main ones that stood out from like seeing that. It's an interesting episode to say the least. Interesting to see how the characters are, like how the world breathes, even though the characters aren't in that world anymore. And I think like coming fresh off of the episode of Jean reflecting on his time, reflecting on his time in the ever after, makes that episode that much more. I guess like it makes it hit that much harder for. But I will say the next episode for me hit much harder because here's the episode I've wanted to talk about, and that I was so disappointed that I didn't wait to record my video for Boba. Here's the thing. I loved Boba as an episode. I think it was an amazing episode for what it managed to accomplish and what it did for so many of for what it did for Ruby and for Yang. But also, like Ollie and I think in almost every Ruby video that we'd ever recorded, this was the main thing that we've been complaining about, and the main thing that we were saying, like, oh, we want to see more of this, or we want to see this happen in it. And here it is. Here it is. We finally got it. We did it. We sure did it. But it's also just like it's one of these like it's great that we're finally seeing it now, but it's also like where was this throughout the rest of the show? And it's just like it's such a sweet moment getting Yang and Ruby just to talk, like be able to address feelings and be able to have these. And I get like with moments like this, it's hard to facilitate them in a show because of the fact that anytime you try doing it, it's gonna come off very. It's gonna be exposition. It's gonna be like just exposition. It's gonna like take time for them to just sit down, and with everything that's moving around them, it doesn't always work. But at the same time, they've been doing that for a while. They have moments where characters are just sitting around talking. RBB is a show about characters sitting around, just talking. We need that in the show. And it's like I get Ruby is a lot more based in the actions of characters. It's more based in what's happening generally around them. But moments like this are so crucial for developing characters and for being able to fill out the characters and fill out what it is that they do in the world, fill out what it is that they like who they are and that kind of thing. And it fills out these little gaps in the characters. And it makes the characters feel so much more alive is the other part of it. And it's like with Yang and Ruby, like Ollie and I have said time and time again, they never really got the chance to feel like sisters. They never really felt like they were. the sister duo that I guess we know that they're supposed to be. And it was so nice kind of getting that chance for them to finally sit down, and it kind of felt like they were poking directly at us, which I know Rooster Teeth is not as it's not necessarily new for them to do this. I think I remember them at one point saying like, "No, my cane is not a relic," and now here with you know we haven't really gotten a lot of time to do this whole sister thing. I remember I laughed so hard at that, and I was also so mad when I saw this because this episode is so good, but then I'm also like, where was this in the show? This would have been amazing to have in the show, like just having these moments. Because like our biggest complaint with like Volume 9, like I think Volume 9 was great. It was a great step in the right direction for how I think a lot of things in the show should be done. Because I think it did a lot of things very well, but one of Ollie and my biggest gripes with it was Yang and Ruby never really got the chance to feel like sisters. And like, yeah, Yang reacted when they got to the statue of Ruby in the forest when they finally found her, when they found her at the tree. But I don't know, like it. They never really felt like sisters, and it felt like yeah, they were putting a lot of the pressure on them, and yeah, they addressed that directly in this episode. But also, she it felt more like they were like cousins at best, best friends at worst, with kind of the way that they were talking to each other. I feel it's like Yang, if anyone, should have noticed what was going on with Ruby, and also should have been the first to just kind of comfort her, because Ruby definitely needed that comfort. And like, I get it. Not everyone is like savvy to that and that kind of things, but it's also like I feel like I still feel like Ruby should have had like that support, should have had Yang helping her to some degree of just making like, hey, are you okay? Like, do you want to talk about this? And trying to just get that pressure off of her. Because I feel like that's what, I don't know, like, I feel that's what Yang, I guess, should have been doing from the earlier parts. But back then, it was like, I liked that Ruby was trying to figure some of this stuff out on her own. I liked that she floundered a lot for it. I like that she like had the chance to make mistakes. So I think that was the best setting for her to do it. But like now that we're out in the open world, now that we're having stuff happen here, it it would have been nice to have had Yang like every now and then step in and just be like, you can talk to me. You know I'm always here if you need someone to just vent onto, or you just need someone to just get this off your chest with or anything like that. And it's like this episode did all of that, and it's amazing, and I'm so glad that they did it. And I hope that they again, if and when Volume 10 does come out, I hope that they continue on that story on that thread because of the fact that I think that's very strong. I think also in the Ruby Justice League Part 2, which by the way, I have a reaction for that coming out soon. So I hope you guys are excited for it. But with that, they also did a lot of like Yang being very protective of Ruby, which honestly I was also like, where was this in the show? Because that was such a great like thread, and it also explored a lot of Yang's issues with abandonment, which they also don't really touch on. And it's like I love these little moments when we get to really touch onto the roots of the character. And with Ruby, especially, I guess she never really felt like she had those, or at least didn't have them as strongly as the other characters do. It's like I love Ruby, don't get me wrong, but I feel like she suffers from what I'm gonna call the one punch effect, where it's like she's a great character in general, but I don't think she serves that well as the main character. And it's kind of like, or not the main character, like I talk about this in a video with Ollie as well. It's like there's a difference between a main character and a focal character. The focal character is the character that like we're looking through their eyes through the show. It's like most of what we're seeing in the show is colored by their perspective, or it's like they're the characters that the story largely revolves around, and whose moments largely dictate the direction in which the story goes and the perspective that we mostly will be looking through. Ruby, I would say, is one of the focal characters, or at least as of late is the main like focal character that we're watching after. Because like the last volume was a lot about her being able to overcome her own doubt and be able to overcome her like anxiety and a lot of different stuff about who she's supposed to be. Like that was the main story of Volume 9 versus say as much as I love Bumblebee, that was like a side plot as a part of the grander story of the volume. I wouldn't call that like a main like the story the series itself you could say was leading up to that point, but I wouldn't call it like the main point of the entire volume was not just that one point, or it shouldn't be. It was all about like Ruby, so that's why she's like the focal point of all of that. And the problem with Ruby being a focal character, or my problem with her being a focal character, is that like she doesn't really feel like she has enough for doing. Like Ruby is one of those characters where it's like she can support the characters around her and do amazing. Like she does a great job being able to lift up the other characters when they're going through their development. She did that for Jean way back in volume one. She does it for what do you call it, Oscar in Volume 5. Like she's always been that character that's like when you need that inspiration boost, she's there for it because she's always been the optimistic character. And that's why like in Volume 9 it's so interesting to see her get broken down the way she does because that just it makes the scene so much more prominent because we usually associate Ruby as the optimist, the one who always has that faith in humanity and always has that faith that things will eventually work themselves out. Um, but I guess just with how they handled like a lot of that, it's like they tried making Ruby a lot more the focus, or it feels like they've been making her a lot more the focus of some volumes, and because of that, it like feels very jarring because Ruby never really had that for her. Like she has quirks and she has things that develop her as a character, but at the same time, she never really felt like she like fit into being the main character. She just kind of felt like she was naturally great at so many different things. She was a prodigy, and because of that, it's like it became harder to see her really have like a growth. She has growth. She shows growth, but like I guess it becomes just harder to naturally see it when you're just like, oh, she just naturally is good at so many of these different things, and just kind of like you just kind of slip that to the back of your mind when you're watching her on screen and that kind of thing. It's like Ruby, I think, suits better when she's supporting other characters, or she's like not necessarily when she's. I don't want to say when she's treated as a plot device because of the fact that the Silver Eyes are more the plot device than she herself. But like, it does suit the story better when she's put in the back rather than put into like the forefront of the show. Like when she's being able to support other characters in being able to achieve their goals and being able to push themselves to reaching that point. I just think that works better for her, personally speaking. If you guys disagree with that, you're welcome to say so in the comments below. But that's just how I generally feel with Ruby. And I think this episode was a great start in pushing it kind of back toward, or at least pushing it toward a place where it's like you can give Ruby a lot of development, and I think that might give her the grounding that she needs to become a focal character. But you need to have these moments of talking and these moments of like getting these characters to address things. And with Ruby especially, it's like she's been through a lot. She's suffered through the loss of multiple of Atlas on a decision that she ended up making. And people have died for a choice that she made. And above all of that, there's also the point of Volume 8's decisions with Ironwood. Now, Ollie and I have talked about this also a little bit, but Ironwood and Ruby both wanted the same thing. They both were working toward the same goal of, we want to save people. Ruby, love her as much as I do, had the idea of she wanted to try to save everyone. She, being ever the optimist, wanted to save everyone, but eventually came to realize we can't. Thing is, that's exactly what Ironwood was saying. It wasn't, oh, I want to save only Atlas. It was, I want to save as many people as I can and get out of here. So I wish there was that moment of Ruby realizing, like, yeah, I was wrong. Like I was going about this the wrong way, and or at least have a moment of just being like, I took a risk with it. I tried being able to save everyone. It didn't work out. And we kind of got that with like her little breakdown before, but it kind of got marred later on by the fact of Ironwood having his ultimatum and saying like he would destroy Mantle to be able to get the relic and be able to have them do their job. That just kind of threw that plot point completely out the window. But like, and because of that, it sacrificed a crucial point of Ruby's development. Like she just, Ollie and I said like we need moments like that where she just realizes like optimism is fine, but blind optimism and what she had before wasn't going to end up working for it. And it's like we kind of got that. They were on the right track of that in volume 8 with talking about risk and talking about taking chances and that kind of thing. But it feels like we need a bit more than that. And again, like I think that Boba was a great start in that direction. And it's a direction that I hope that they continue in going into volume 10 when we do eventually get to that. But that's pretty much all I have to say for that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video then. This was a great episode. I'm looking forward to seeing eventually what happens next with Ruby. It's still unclear. We still have a lot of things we don't know what's going on with the show. Obviously the show is very near and dear to my heart. I very much want to see where they're going to go with it. I want to see who it's going to end up in the hands of. I want to see where it's going to go with it. But uh, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But in the meantime, this is a great episode. It was great seeing these characters. This episode probably made me cry when I watched it originally, because it's sweet seeing these characters get together and sweet having these moments of them sitting down and having these talks. So, thank you, Rooster Teeth, for giving us this episode. Thank you for the hard to believe 20 years, even though I wasn't around for all of them, but like for all those years worth of amazement with this show and with so many other different shows. This is great. Thank you guys for watching this one. Hope you guys enjoy it. Leave your thoughts down in the comments down below. Of course, as I always say, like, if you disagree with any of the points that I have, you're welcome to say so. Uh, just be respectful and kind of it, because, as I always say, like, we all have different perspectives colored by our different ways of looking at the world and looking at life. And there's no such thing, I think, I believe that there's no such thing as a wrong perspective, just a different perspective. And I would like to impart on you guys to frame whatever criticisms or critiques you would like to give of the points that I made in this video in that sense of just, I don't agree with you, and here's how I view it, rather than saying you're wrong and dot 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 dot. Ollie and I want to foster a community within my channel and within the fan bases we talk about, of people who are willing to have these open discussions, talking about the points that we do in a way that's respectful to everyone, and we want to be able to continue to give that to the people. So please be respectful. Please feel free to share what you wish in the comments down below. Please be respectful with doing so. That being said, I'm Ani-mity, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.